I've been criticizing Jason this warmed over Bears list because it's just guys. It's just exactly what we thought. But putting Kliff Kingsbury on there, now I'm interested. Now that's the first name where I said, okay, now we might be onto something. What do you think?
I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting for Kliff Kingsbury as an option here. And if you're picking Caleb Williams, this is a really good move for the Bears because he'll probably have a lot of information for you on Caleb Williams. Not that you couldn't have gotten that anyway from talking to him, but in an interview, I think you'll get a much more in-depth idea of, as he's explaining how he would potentially coach Caleb Williams, you'll get a lot of insight into that. So I like that. And this is to me a popular candidate. This isn't a guy who you're just settling for whoever's left after the dust clears everywhere else.
It's a guy that has options too, even if those options are just staying at USC. He's got options because he does have a track record of successful offenses with this type of quarterback, whether we're talking Texas Tech or if we're talking about his time in Arizona. So that's a good thing to have. I know that he's someone that you were looking forward to. Is there anyone else that they've talked to that you find intriguing?
That they've talked to? No, I'm kind of with Dan. It's an uninspiring list. I mean, Greg Roman, I like that idea, at least as something to look into.
I wouldn't mind hiring him also.
I mean, you do need someone to be in charge of your run game.
This is what I mean. Like, if you hire him as run game coordinator, running backs coach, I don't know how diametrically opposed his philosophies are, his personality would be. But if they haven't thought big yet, one thing they can do is hire multiple guys off their list and make up titles for them.
They can, but that doesn't sound really very functional to me, to just assemble this super staff, especially if the offensive coordinator is not the guy choosing everybody. That, you know what that reminds me of a little bit is when they just had all these different coaches working on Mitch, and that
Yes,
didn't
right.
seem very cohesive.
They had Team Mitch.
Yeah.
Have you figured out, and I mean, the Kingsbury thing is going to be really interesting. Have you been able to talk to anyone about how they're going to thread the needle of talking to all of these coordinator candidates without revealing their plans, because they don't want to reveal their plans because they don't want to damage any value to Justin Fields if they're going to trade him, or letting people know that they're going to keep him? How do you go about doing that?
You can't tip your hand in these interviews, which to me, I would have thought logically the best thing to do would be to know what you want to do at quarterback before these interviews, and that would dictate which candidates you're interviewing in some cases, and it would also dictate which caliber of candidates you can get, and it would really influence the course of the interviews, because it just seems like such a different task between what could you do with Justin Fields versus how will you help us make sure we make a correct evaluation on however many prospects we're considering.
Ask both.
But
ask all of it.
well, that's
there's
what
no
they're
time
going to do, Dan.
limit. I mean,
That's the
sure.
plan.
I mean, I would
That's
think
what they're doing.
You ask everybody about what would you do with Justin Fields, and then you talk about all of the other prospects involved. Who do you like and why? I mean, because theoretically, you could have everybody sign an NDA, but it's still going to probably leak if you disclosed your plans.
Well, what you're describing is what they're going to do. To answer Lawrence's question, that is what they're doing. They are going into all of these, very tight-lipped about their plans, but they want to hear, what are you going to do if it's this? What are you going to do if it's this? What are you going to do if they bring in Kirk Cousins or somebody like that? These are going to be very open-ended, long, multifaceted interviews.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing that they got going on over there to try to figure out how all of this stuff is going to work. I know that
can I say one thing?
You can say as many things as you'd like. This is your segment.
Well, it's your show, so I want to ask. But, I think I fall victim to this, and I think that sometimes the Bears fan base does as well. These are good problems to have, finally. Finally, these are good problems to have. This isn't like Mitch Trubisky just shipwrecks, and it's like, what do we do? We better be the only team willing to trade for Nick Foles. Or Matt Nagy, just drives the offense into a ditch, and it's like, well, we got to fire him and find someone else. At least the choices they're making this year at coach, coordinator, quarterback, at least these are good choices to be making.
Jalen Johnson's approach, his stance, shouldn't say his approach, his stance has changed. Where at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, saying, I don't necessarily have to be paid the highest. I should be respected. But now that he's got some interceptions, the second team All Pro, do you think that his idea of being the highest paid corner makes sense?
To use his phrase that he always says, 100%. Yes. He certainly could argue that. He has been this is the first year he got the accolades. This is the first year he got the postseason awards and everything like that. But Jalen Johnson has been excellent since the day they drafted him. And that was a great draft pick of the Ryan Pace era to get him in the second round and be right, I guess, medically about the opinion on his shoulder. He has been excellent. He's been the best corner on the team since they got him. And he's so young. I forget how young he is, but he's like the same age as Kyler Gordon or something like that. I think he's like 23. He's extremely young for how experienced he is. You are signing up for the prime years with this next contract of one of the best young cornerbacks in the game. And Lawrence, you can't predict anything. You don't ever know. And the Bears know this better than anyone. You don't ever know what's in another person's mind, even if they're in your building. But Jalen Johnson just seems like if you're going to bet on somebody who stays determined and motivated and committed to getting better even after they get paid, Jalen Johnson sure seems like that guy to me.
Why haven't we heard anything about the Bears' defensive coordinator position?
Probably that's going to be less exciting to you than the offensive coordinator position.
But that's not why we haven't heard anything about it. It's like, well, we can't. Bernstein's not going to be excited, so let's not talk about it.
I think they kind of have this thing where they like to have everything organized all at once. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we get offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator all presented on the same day, just like they did with their coaching decision of Eberflus stays and Getty goes.